Now in this video we're going to talk about the absolute value in mathematics. The absolute value of number is the distance from 0 to that number on the number line. Now we'll start with some numerical values. So let's find the absolute value of 2. First we define what is the absolute value of 2. It's the distance from 0 to 2. And when we look at the distance, we have got 2 units. So 2 units. Now let's look at the absolute value of negative 3 now. When we look at the distance from 0 to negative 3, we have 1, 2, 3 units. Now this is 3 units. Now how can we suggest to do this? We can suggest to do the following. When my number is negative, it's negative 3. What I do, I put a negative sign in front of it, and that should give me a positive number because the distance must be positive. Good. Now let's go here and define the absolute value of any number x. It will be equal to x when my x is either positive or 0. This is what we did here. It will be negative x when my x is negative. And this is what we did here. We put a minus in front of the x. We put a minus in front of the x. This is what we need to do. Now let's see how we can simplify expressions with the absolute value. Now the first example we are going to look at is to simplify the absolute value of 2 plus the absolute value of negative 3. Now this gives me 2 plus the absolute value of negative 3. Let's put everything here between the brackets. So because the negative 3, the number negative 3 is negative, what we do, we put a minus here. Okay, minus 3 is negative, so we put a minus 3, and then we close the bracket. So that gives me 2 plus, and then I simplify this negative 3, that gives me 3, and all this gives me 5. Now second example, it's negative 2 plus 8, the absolute value of all the expression, negative 2 plus 8. Now this time I simplify inside the absolute value, that gives me 6. Now 6 is positive, and therefore I apply this, so it gives me 6. Now let's look at the absolute value of expressions. This is important when you are solving equations or inequalities with absolute value. So we retake the definition we gave above. So the absolute value of x is equal to x when x is positive or 0. The absolute value of x is negative x when x is negative. Good. Now let's suppose we don't have x, we have 2x. We have 2x minus 3. So 2x minus 3, 2x minus 3, and 2x minus 3, and 2x minus 3. So you apply the same thing as the definition here to any expression. So 2x minus 3 absolute value is equal to 2x minus 2 when 2x minus 3 is positive, and this is equal to the negative of 2x minus 3 when 2x minus 3 is negative. Very simple. Now let's look at this example here. We need to write the absolute value of x minus 1 without absolute value. So x minus 1 absolute value is equal to x minus 1 when x minus 1 is positive or 0, or now this, when you solve it, it gives you when x is bigger than or equal to 1. Remember, you add plus 1 here, plus 1 here to solve the inequality. Now, absolute value of x minus 1 is equal to minus x minus 1, which can be simplified as negative x plus 1. Now, this happens when x minus 1 is negative, or now when you solve this, it gives you when x is less than 1. So let's put all this together. The absolute value of x minus 1 can be simplified to x minus 1, which means without absolute value when x is bigger than 1, and it's equal to negative x plus 1. Remember the minus here. When x is less than 1, let's simplify another expression, x2. Can we write this? Yes, is equal to x2, because x2 it's either positive or 0, because x2 is either positive or 0, so the absolute value of x2 is equal to x2. Now let's simplify more examples, more expressions. How about x2 plus 1? This can be written without absolute value. Why? Because this is always positive, so it's x2 plus 1. I am using the definition negative x2 is either negative or 0, so I put a minus sign here with the minus x2, and that give me x2. Now some rules of the absolute value. Now the absolute value of a multiplied by b is equal to the absolute value of a multiply by the absolute value of b. The absolute value of a divided by b is equal to the absolute value of a divided by the absolute value of b. One last item is the relationship between the square root and the absolute value. Now, square root of x2 is equal to absolute value of x. Now, many students, they say that square root of x2 is equal to x. Now, this is true only when x is bigger than or equal to 0. But in general, this always holds whether x is positive or negative. Same thing for a whole expression. So if you have 2x plus 1 power 2 and everything under the square root, that gives you the absolute value of 2x plus 1.